A lady does not go around looking to start a fight with everyone around her. The fact of the matter is, no one might have told you this, but we live in a world full of people with different beliefs, values, cultures, and behaviors than you do. Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. My name is Caitlin and I run the blog called Mrs. Midwest. This is part 2 to our 2-part series on unladylike behavior, but if you somehow missed the first video, I'm excited to unpack a little information before we begin. So I don't believe that all women must be ladylike, but I do believe that ladylike behavior can be quantified. I believe it's about respecting yourself, respecting others, and maintaining feminine elegance. There is a faction of us, you could say hobbyists on the internet, who are absolutely obsessed with talking about femininity, elegance, and ladylike behavior. It is our hobby, it is our joy, and I personally think there's nothing wrong with women coming together to talk about elegant social refinement. Let's dive into the first area of unladylike behavior you might be doing, and that is oversharing online. Oversharing online can come in many different forms. It can be a lot of nudity online. It could be oversharing your location, your activities, or even your emotions, your heart, your thoughts, your feelings. Oversharing your relationship, too much online PDA. No matter what you're oversharing in general tends to come across as very unladylike. Elegance has a level of mystery and privacy to it, and a lady will protect her privacy. And when we overshare and overexpose our thoughts, beliefs, heart, emotions, life, relationships, we're essentially opening up ourselves to the world and we're inviting them into that intimate space in our life. Now, you know that I have a public Instagram, I have this public YouTube channel, but I try to maintain a balance of privacy. So I'm not saying you can't be online, you can't have a blog, you can't share, but it's about what you share, how much you share, and having personal discretion. So as you approach the area of online sharing, while trying to remain ladylike, remember that it's contextual. I cannot give you a set of guidelines of what's appropriate to share and what's not, because we all come from different cultures and have different beliefs and values. I do think that we can all agree that oversharing online does take away from that feminine mystery and also opens you up and it makes you vulnerable to strangers. And the thing about being ladylike is that it has that maturity and foresight, you know? So as you post online, try to think about the future. Have that long-term, mindset where we're not just living in the moment, we're not being impulsive, but we're thinking about what's going to age well online, what we're going to be comfortable with in a few years. And we can't always predict that, but we can try to have discretion. And that's all I'm encouraging you today. So as you try to be ladylike online, try to have discretion, keep a little bit of that mystery. And if you're interested in the topic of feminine mystery, I do have a video on. All right, the second area of unladylike behavior that you might be doing. I have been guilty of this so much in my life, but it is excessive complaining and whining. Ladylike behavior, again, it's about being a mature woman. And when we excessively give into complaining and whining and crying and meh about the day-to-day in life, it comes across as very immature. And ladylike behavior is about striving for that maturity. The thing about this one is, I'm not saying you can't vent, you can't cry about hard things you're going through. What I'm really focusing on is complaining and whining about something that you didn't have to express, complaining and living in that negative space mentally and emotionally when it's not necessary. There are some things in life that we must absolutely confront head on and process our emotions over. But then there's other things that we just upset ourselves for no reason other than some sort of personal catharsis of expressing ourselves and maybe making other people feel terrible about what we feel terrible about. Try to come up with a hierarchy with yourself of what's worth complaining about and what isn't. Complaining and whining angles yourself in such a way that you're in a very negative headspace, but also in a way that it kind of feels like you can't handle day-to-day life. Day-to-day life is going to be filled with many things to complain about, and it's simply not worth it to complain about every little thing that might irritate us. So try to focus on the brighter side of life, and also try to build up that grit and fortitude, because again, we talk about femininity a lot on my channel, and I'm a firm believer that it's not weakness. You know, femininity is about being strong, being able to withstand difficulties. And so as you create your complaining hierarchy, kind of figure out what is worth complaining about, you know, what isn't, and what should you be able to withstand, and try to see the brighter side of things. All right, this leads us to the third area of unladylike behavior that you might be making. And this is all about having a very overly aggressive and combative attitude. So we're all gonna have times in life where we need to be a little bit aggressive, where we need to fight for ourselves when we're in real serious danger, you know, when our safety is at risk, when we're being assaulted or emotionally, mentally, verbally by somebody, physically, you know, there are times to be combative. But that's different than having kind of a default setting where you are just looking for a fight. A lady does not go around looking to start a fight with everyone around her. The fact of the matter is, no one might have told you this, but we live in a world full of people with different beliefs, values, cultures, and behaviors than you do. We're not going to get along with everybody, but it doesn't mean we need to be combative and aggressive with every single person. I feel like when we approach life from the perspective of not expecting everybody to agree with us, to understand us, to share our beliefs and values, it might be less shocking when we encounter someone who doesn't share our beliefs and values, and we might feel less likely to get aggressive with them. So I really encourage you, if you're a person who really wants to be ladylike, but you also really want to pick fights online or in person, or just, you know, start fights with your parents, or start fights with your friends, or jump on people when you feel like they might disagree with you, you know, tone that down a little bit. Live in a more positive mental state, you know, step away from that aggressive posture, even just for a week. Let yourself breathe, and try to find a balance in life where you're not living in that aggressive masculinity so much, because at the end of the day, that warring, aggressive kind of attitude is very masculine. And on my channel, we talk about femininity. Not everyone has to be feminine, but for those who want to be ladylike, living in your feminine energy is important, and that is about nurturing yourself and other relationships. Again, you're gonna have times in life where you need to defend yourself, and I have no problem being rude to somebody if they are making me feel unsafe, if I feel like I am in danger. I'm not a nice person when I feel like I'm in danger, okay? This is about kind of attacking unsuspecting people or creating conflict for no real reason, and living in that aggressive mental state on purpose consistently is not going to communicate that really ladylike kind of attitude, because again, a lady is able to hold her tongue. She's able to have that impulse control, that self-control. She's able to see when it's worth it to say something, when it's not worth it, when it's appropriate, when it's not appropriate. Turning the other cheek is a real thing. It is not easy, but it is very ladylike. It is something that I have tried to practice, especially since becoming a blogger and influencer. There's no way I could defend myself or fight against every single person who criticized me or was mean to me online, you know, and choosing to turn the other cheek has not only saved my mental energy, but also it's just allowed me to be happier online and to not get involved. There are times in life where we absolutely should get involved in the fight, but then there are other times where we should turn the other cheek. It's not a big deal, and that's really what I'm focusing on today. If you want to be ladylike, try to step away from that aggressive, combative attitude. All right, the fourth area of unladylike behavior for this part 2 video is being glued to your phone, figuratively and literally. A lot of people struggle with this. We are living in a modern world. Phones are necessary. Smartphones are so helpful. I built my blog off of my phone. I'm recording on my phone right now. I think they're great. But sometimes they can inhibit social connection and relationships. If your phone is inhibiting your social connections, it might be time to back off, because when we're glued to our phones, figuratively and literally, we're failing to live in the real world and build those real life connections. Why I say figuratively and literally is, you can have the typical situation of looking at your phone so much you are disregarding your husband or a friend at a coffee shop, or, a relationship connection that you could be making. But then also figuratively, because when we're so glued to our online reputations, the likes we're getting, when we're tracking our follows and the interactions we're getting, we can kind of get addicted to that approval and kind of view it as a marker of our value. And I really feel that a lady knows her worth, and a lady respects herself, she respects other people, and she's also, again, that maturity. And I don't always succeed at this. I know a lot of people struggle with this, but as we grow towards maturity, we need to remember that our value is outside of our online reputation, our online likes and follows and whatever we have going on. Our value is built, for my Christians in the audience, this, it's built in Jesus Christ and in God who created us in his image. We are fearfully and wonderfully made, and he loves us, and he sent his son to die for us. We're valuable in the eyes of God. But just in general, human validation shouldn't come online just as much as it should not come from the approval of people in person. We should have that strong centered value and confidence on our own without using our phone to prop us up and just living in that online world so much. So as you grow as a lady, remember that, the real world is where we should be living, and phones can enhance our real life, but it's not a substitute for actually living your real life, having real hobbies, real friendships, and real connection. So again, being glued to your phone is unladylike just from a social standpoint, because you might be ignoring people or showing them that you disrespect them, but also from a bigger lens, it's unladylike because it's not feeding into your personal growth. And again, building your confidence on what people online say about you is just never going to end well, just as it wouldn't end well if you built your value from what people in person say about you. This does bring us to the fifth area of unladylike behavior mistakes you might be making. It's all about impulse control. Not a fun topic. I have struggled with impulse control, especially with eating, being lazy. I've had to really work on my self-discipline, but a lady has impulse control. And again, what does that mean? Well, it means self-discipline. It means knowing your limits, knowing your limits with alcohol, food, controlling your body and getting yourself up to do the work you have to in life, and controlling yourself in romantic relationships, having impulse control with, again, turning the other cheek, holding your tongue in a conflict. Impulse control is something that applies to so many different categories. I can't even count it. So I really feel like it's one of the best things you can grow in life, because instead of trying to get really good at dieting, or get really good at cleaning your room, or get really good at holding your tongue, you could just get really good at impulse control, and then all those areas are going to be so much easier for you. And I'm a testimony to that. I used to really struggle with impulse control, and I would really want to give in to gluttony or laziness, or just saying whatever I wanted, responding, reacting to people. But now I'm a person where I have worked so hard on self-discipline. I'm not perfect. I'm not even where I want to be yet, but I'm a lot better. And so I do have that impulse control when I want a second cupcake, or when I want to lay in bed longer than I should, or when I want to clap back at somebody online. I have that impulse control to hold me back. I will say, I feel like as a Christian, the only way I was able to get where I am is because of the sanctification of God, reading his word and allowing Christ to change my heart. So I don't have a lot of good advice for how to do that from a non-biblical standpoint. But I feel like self-discipline is a worthwhile pursuit. I think that, even if you're not a Christian, some of the proverbs in the Bible could be extremely enlightening to you. And I would really encourage you to kind of peek through Proverbs if you're interested, because Proverbs has really just kind of reminded me of how I am to be, not just as a Christian, but as a person created in the image of God. So again, ladylike behavior includes impulse control, because a lady is mature, she's self-contained, she is a person who's very refined. And when we want to be self-contained and refined, it means we have to be able to control our impulses, our emotions, our first instincts, to kind of step away from those primal instincts we have within us. And that's ultimately what being ladylike and social refinement is about. It's about taking a primal person and softening their sharp edges until you are socially refined. You know, like the My Fair Lady kind of story. It's about refining those primal instincts we have and stepping away from the cave and into the palace. That is all I have for you today. So thank you so much for watching my part 2. If you haven't watched part 1, I do have a part 1 on unladylike behavior available earlier this week. If you liked the video, please do click that like button. It does help grow our community. If you haven't yet, join the feminine family by subscribing. Leave a comment below on some of your unladylike behavior ideas. You know, we might come from different cultures. Maybe you have different ideas about what social refinement looks like. I would love to hear about it below. If you're interested in more of this kind of content, I also have a written blog. Feel free to follow me on Instagram. But in total, I hope you have a wonderfully blessed and ladylike week, my beautiful sisters.